Unveiling the sinister truth, a spine-chilling experience you can't afford to ignore. The thumping echoed through the house as if a heartbeat was embedding itself deep within the walls. Anna's heart raced, each pulsating thud vibrating through her, gripping her with fear. It was late, the kids were asleep, and the suburban world outside her window was draped in an illusion of tranquility. But the shadows seemed to dance in her dim living room, twisting and distorting reality. Thump. Thump. The sound was almost rhythmic, too precise, too deliberate to be a figment of her imagination. The veneer of Maplewood, with its manicured lawns and eager waves from neighbors, cracked under the pressure of dread. The economic clouds darkened the tight-knit community as layoffs at the factory gnawed at the edges of their peaceful existence. Whispers circulated like the wind, eroding the last vestiges of comfort. Anna could feel the weight of responsibility crashing down on her like a storm. She shook her head, trying to dismiss the eerie noises as nothing more than tiredness, yet the chills creeping up her spine told a different story. Then her kids burst into the living room one bright afternoon, bubbling over with excitement. "Mommy, we made a new friend," they chattered. "Mr. Jenkins is so nice." Anna felt the hairs on her neck prickling. This Mr. Jenkins? The amiable neighbor who hosted community gatherings? The friendly facade masked an unsettling familiarity that dug under her skin. He knew their names, their routines, even the small details that shouldn't have been shared. That evening, unable to ignore her gnawing anxiety, Anna powered up her laptop. Each keystroke deepened her dread, leading her down a rabbit hole of unexplained disappearances. Local reports, whispers of the past reeking of unsolved mystery, traced back decades, each missing person a thread woven into the very fabric of Maplewood. Suddenly the memories of smiling neighbors and warm greetings took on a sinister tint. Anna's stomach twisted into knots as she read about the annual gatherings Mr. Jenkins coordinated and the very people who had vanished. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The air seemed thick with unspoken truths. The weight of silence pressed against Anna's chest, and panic gripped her like a vice. With racing thoughts, she sought help from a colleague, a retired police officer who warned her about the dangerous underbelly of Maplewood. Corruption lurking in the shadows, people meant to protect, perhaps hiding the real monsters. She felt the icy tendrils of fear crawl up her spine, tightening their hold. As twilight enveloped Maplewood, Anna's instinct screamed at her to protect her children. The door to their home lay ajar, a horrifying invitation to the unfolding nightmare. "Emma? Jake?" She called desperately, her voice trembling. As she rushed into the backyard, laughter echoed a sound that should have been innocent, now warped and mocking. And then she saw him, Mr. Jenkins, standing too close, too friendly, lurking in the shadows. An unearthly chill washed over her as the true horror settled in. Not just her children's safety, but the very community meant to cradle them was filtering darkness into their lives. The flashing lights of a police cruiser illuminated the chaos, but Anna knew this wasn't simply a rescue. It beckoned her closer to something more sinister, something deeper that threatened to unravel everything she held dear. Would she confront the darkness, or plunge into the unknown where true terror awaited? Anna's breath hitched as she stared at Mr. Jenkins, his smile unwavering, too wide like a mask coming undone. The laughter from her children sounded hollow, a twisted echo of innocence lost. What are you doing out here?" She stepped forward, adrenaline coursing through her veins as fear sharpened her senses. "Just having a little chat with your kids," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "They're delightful, truly. Full of imagination." He glanced back at Emma and Jake, who were transfixed, eyes lit with an unsettling gleam. They didn't sense the danger, they only saw the man who offered them attention, who filled the void their mother was too busy to occupy. Anna's instinct screamed at her to intervene. "Come on, kids. Inside, now. She shouted, the urgency undeniable. The children turned reluctantly, their faces flickered between confusion and defiance. She felt their small hands clasp hers, their warmth grounding her against the chilling reality. Mr. Jenkins's expression darkened, the friendly veneer cracking with a mere flicker of irritation. Don't be so hasty, Anna. It's not often children get a chance to hear stories of Maplewood's history, he said, a dangerous edge creeping into his tone. No stories. Just come inside, please, she pleaded, her heart hammering against her chest. As she backed away, pulling her children with her, the shadows seemed to coil around her, hungry for something more than mere fear. Once safely inside, Anna locked the door, pressing her back against it as if it could shield her from the storm outside. The laughter subsided, but the air hung thick with malice. The children looked up at her, brows furrowed, innocence clouding their expressions. But he was nice, Mommy. Emma protested. He's not nice, honey. You can't trust everyone, she whispered, clutching their shoulders tightly. She glanced back through the window. He stood there, still smiling, still watching, the darkness licking at his heels. The room felt alive, shadows crawling along the walls. Panic surged once more as the thumping started again, but this time it was accompanied by whispers. Soft, insidious murmurs slithering into her ears, making her second-guess reality. Flee while you can, they seemed to say. She shook her head. It couldn't be real. She had to focus. Raising her voice above the cacophony, she powered her laptop back on, desperately searching for anything that could help her understand. The cold light illuminated the walls, revealing a world she knew was blackened by secrets. Hours slipped by as internet tabs opened, each filled with stories that cut deeper than the last. Missing children, strange festivals held under moonlight, neighbors who never returned home. Every click reinforced her mania, her world was threatening to tear apart at the seams. But just as Anna felt she was grasping the enormity of the truth, her laptop screen flickered rapidly, distorting images of the lives and faces she had been investigating. The noise of a distant pounding interrupted her thoughts, louder this time, intensified. As she powered down her laptop, she heard it, a soft scratching sound, like claws against wood. Turning slowly, her heart stopped. The noise was coming from behind the wall, the very wall connecting her house to Mr. Jenkins's home. The muffled voices grew clearer, mingling with the pounding. Were they his victims, calling for help? Moments ticked by like hours, her breath caught in her throat. What had Maplewood truly become? The weight of the truth was unbearable, suffocating. In that moment, every fiber in her being screamed for answers, and the undeniable question emerged. Would she dare to delve deeper into the secrets hidden within her own walls? The scratching stopped, replaced by the sound of breaking glass. A new pulse of fear shot through her as she realized, the terror was no longer lurking outside but had seeped into her home. What had she awakened? Anna's heart raced as the dull thud of breaking glass echoed through the house. It wasn't just noise, it was an invitation to horror. Glancing toward the window, she saw the silhouette of Mr. Jenkins move away from her view, but she knew he was still out there, lurking, waiting for the right moment to strike. Mommy, what's that noise? Jake's voice trembled, his wide eyes reflecting the dim light of the room, as anxiety anchored him. Emma shivered but held on to Jake, the pair of them as frightened as their mother. Stay close, sweethearts, Anna whispered. The air felt thicker now, laden with fear. She knew her job was to protect them, but did she have the strength, the ability to shield them from this dark reality? The scratching noise resumed, but this time it was sharper, scraping in a furious rhythm. Each sound felt like a countdown. Was it counting down to something unknown, something terrible? Panic surged as she rushed to the kitchen, pulling out a knife from the block. It glinted under the fluorescent light, a tiny beacon of false security. Let's look, Anna said, each word heavy with resolve. She crept toward the wall that separated her home from Mr. Jenkins. The scratching paused, and in that chilling silence, she pressed her ear against the cold plaster. Help us, the whispering voices poured through, ghostly and filled with pain. She recoiled, fear bubbling up her throat. Were they real? Or just figments of her frantic mind? What's wrong, Mommy? Emma's small hand tugged at her sleeve, trembling. Anna turned to her children, the stirring dread a vortex inside her. Stay here. Don't move. Anna's voice barely held. With tentative steps, she moved to the living room, scanning the shadows that pooled around the furniture, whispering secrets she dared not hear. With each heartbeat, the tension grew. The pounding returned, fierce and relentless, shaking her resolve. She needed to get them out. The backyard was still an option, but would it lead to freedom or face more horror? Taking a deep breath, she turned back toward the hallway to grab her phone, ready to call for help. Suddenly, the lights flickered, dimming for a fleeting moment that felt like an eternity, and with it, the comfort of her home unraveled. Mommy! The kids shouted, which felt like a thunderclap in the eerie stillness. She rushed back, trying to calm them, but the unease lingered on the backs of her arms like ice. Then she noticed something moving by the window, a shadow darting past. Mr. Jenkins? All at once, the window shattered, glass shards exploding outward as a twisted facsimile of Mr. Jenkins burst through. His smile was gone, replaced by a grotesque snarl that seemed to feed off her terror. Come play with us, he crooned, his voice now low and guttural. Anna stepped back, her breathing shallowed. There was no longer a need for whispers behind walls, this nightmare had been unleashed. She swung the knife toward him just as he lunged forward, desperate to grab her children. Chaos erupted. She had to fight, there was no escape. Run! She screamed as the shadows clawed at her sanity, erupting in wild frenzy around them, feeding on fear. Mommy! The children's cries cut through the madness like a siren's song, pulling her back between the realms of deepening horror and protective instinct. Reality twisted around her as the room spun, and she braced herself against the wall once more, searching for a flicker of hope amidst the hopelessness. Then all at once, a deafening silence fell. Something shifted in the dark, a whisper among the shadows. Join us! The pulse of fear raced back into her heart. The line between predator and prey was blurring, but could she hold on to her humanity long enough to save her children? What was it they truly desired? The answer teetered on the edge of her mind, but she couldn't grasp it. The funhouse mirror of her life had cracked, and now every fractured reflection beckoned her in with a sinister smile. What had awakened in Maplewood, and what would protect her family? A heavy dread settled in the air, thick as fog, engulfing Anna and her children in an unnatural stillness. The shadows danced around them like phantoms, deepening the terror that ricocheted off the walls. Mr. Jenkins remained still, his malicious grin stretching further, revealing teeth that looked far too sharp for a man. Mommy! Jake whimpered, gripping Emma tighter. Anna turned to them, heart pounding. She fought the instinct to rush toward them, knowing that exposing herself would only make them more vulnerable. Stay behind me! She finally ordered, adrenaline coursing through her veins. She raised the knife, its edge gleaming despite the darkness. Primal instincts surged within her, urging her forward. Playtime is just starting. Mr. Jenkins' voice slithered from his lips like venom, a twisted invitation that sent a shiver down her spine. With a flick of his wrist, the broken glass from the window began to float, suspended midair like silver raindrops waiting to plunge into flesh. Anna glanced back at her children. Their faces, lit only by the fading light, were taut with fear. I won't let him hurt you. She promised, but deep inside, doubt gnawed at her. What if she couldn't protect them from whatever dark forces had awakened? Then, in a swift, terrible motion, the shards shot towards them, whistling through the air. Anna threw herself in front of her children, adrenaline blurring her thoughts. The silver glinting daggers missed just by inches, crashing into a nearby cabinet instead. She could hear the wood splintering, sending a shudder through her. Run! She shouted, voice hoarse, eyes wild. There was no time to think, instinct took over. To the back door. Now! They bolted, small feet racing across the room as Mr. Jenkins laughed, a sound that echoed sharply, twisting her stomach into knots. The laughter faded into something low and growling, like rolling thunder before a storm. The air vibrated with malice, making each step feel like wading through molasses. Narrowly dodging more shards, Anna's gaze darted to the door. It felt so far away, yet it was the only way. She urged her children onward, praying the old hinges wouldn't betray them. Suddenly, the lights flickered again. The house shuddered, groaning under an unseen weight. Shadows shifted as if alive, bending and folding against their will. Anna's heart raced as she turned to find Mr. Jenkins had transformed, his form warped and elongated, his eyes glowing dangerously. "Don't you want to join us, Anna?" His voice pulsated through the room, grotesque and inviting. The walls around them seemed to lean in closer, vibrating with sinister energy. "No." Anna spat back, defiance sparking in her heart. "I'll never join you." She lunged toward the kitchen, clutching the knife like a shield, desperate to find any way out. But then she heard it again, the pleas, rising in a haunting chorus, echoing from the walls themselves. "Help us, join us!" Every fiber in her being screamed for her to run, yet she stumbled, drawn by the voices that promised something she couldn't understand, something terrifying. "Mommy, please." Jake's voice shattered her moment of indecision. She forced herself to move again, racing toward the back door as time distorted, stretching seconds into eternity. She twisted the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Panic surged as she slammed her shoulder against the wood. "Open. Damn you!" she shouted, feeling the darkness creeping closer. The whispers got louder, melding with echoes of her children's cries. Her grip tightened, knuckles widening around the knife. "Hold on," she yelled, desperation fueling her strength. Finally, the door splintered, and as it swung open, light streamed in, a blinding beacon of hope. But it also brought with it a fear that gripped her stomach. What awaited on the other side? With the wind on her back, she shoved her children through the doorway, stepping onto the threshold of uncertainty. What truly lurked outside? Was Maplewood a place of safety, or had they just unleashed something even darker? The shadows behind them seemed to pulse, echoing with hungry anticipation as the breeze carried a faint whisper. Join us. Could she outrun the darkness clawing at their backs, or would it consume them all? As they stumbled onto the porch, the cool night air felt like a slap against Anna's skin. It was sharp and biting, a stark contrast to the oppressive warmth left behind in the house. The rain had stopped, leaving only puddles reflecting the pale moonlight. But the comforting glow of the moon did little to settle the fear that crawled up Anna's legs like icy fingers, urging her to flee. "Mommy." Jake's voice trembled, pulling her from the horror still etched in her mind. She glanced back, dreading the sight of Mr. Jenkins following them, his warped form slipping through the darkness. But there was nothing, only shadows, seeping like ink from the house, waiting impatiently at the edge of the light. "Run!" she commanded again, pushing her kids ahead. They raced down the steps, the wood creaking ominously beneath their weight. The path ahead was overgrown, weeds clawing at their ankles as if trying to drag them back. As they thundered down the front yard, Anna risked another glance behind. The house loomed like a monster, silent but brooding. Had they escaped? Or was the nightmare merely waiting for the right moment to strike again? The thought gnawed at her, sending tremors through her limbs. "Where do we go?" Jake panted, his face pale and streaked with fear. Emma clutched his hand tightly, her wide eyes shimmering with unshed tears, not knowing if the real danger was behind them or still lurking within the walls of their home. "Stay close," Anna said, forcing strength into her voice. "We have to find help." They headed toward the street, Anna pushing her children forward, the urge to look back pulling at her. The shadows seemed to stretch across the road like tendrils, creeping toward them. Anxiety coiled tightly in her chest. Where was the rest of the neighborhood? The lights from the houses should have glowed like beacons, but only darkness encased them. It felt as if Maplewood itself had turned against them. Silence loomed heavy, not even the usual sounds of nighttime creatures dared to breach it. Anna clutched the knife tighter, its cold handle grounding her as they stumbled toward the main street. Then, without warning, a blood-curdling scream ripped through the air. It came from the direction of their home, a sound filled with agony and panic. Did you hear that? Emma whimpered, her grip slackening. It's okay, baby. Just keep running. Anna urged, fear fueled by the realization there were others who might not have escaped. We need to find a phone or someone to help. But the street seemed to stretch on forever, cold and unwelcoming. Then, just as the weight of despair threatened to topple them, a flicker of light caught Anna's eye, a lantern swaying gently from a nearby porch. Look! She pointed, hope igniting in her voice. As they dashed toward it, the light flickered more insistently, drawing them in like moths to a flame. But the closer they approached, the more the light seemed to waver. It twisted and curled, casting eerie shadows that made the air shimmer with unease. Mommy, what if it's someone bad? Jake's voice was barely above a whisper, a fear so palpable that it made Anna's heart race. We can't stop, Jake. We have to know. Adrenaline pushed her on. They reached the porch, gasping, faces illuminated by the lantern's glow. Just as Anna stepped onto the porch, an old woman appeared, her face obscured by the shadows, her eyes glinting with wisdom or malice Anna couldn't tell. Why have you come? The woman croaked, her voice like dry leaves rustling in a parched wind. Do you not know what lurks here? Anna felt a tremor of doubt run through her. The flickering light cast an almost sinister glow around the woman, sharpening her features into something predatory. Please, we need help. Anna's voice quivered, the uncertainty clawing at her insides. Something is after us, something evil. The house, the woman croaked, her eyes widening. Did you leave it? It will not let you go easily. The shadows began to twist around them. Anna's heart sank as the whispers she had heard earlier returned louder now, more insistent, wrapping around her like vines. Join us. With a rush of panic, Anna shuddered, her grip on the knife tightening. What had she unleashed upon her family? Before she could think, the air grew thick, and the lantern flickered wildly. Run! She screamed, but the woman merely laughed, her voice an echo of the very darkness that chased them. As she turned, the shadows surged forward, snaking around her ankle, holding her fast in their grip. The world flipped upside down, and the last thing Anna saw was the old woman's gleeful grin melting into the night. What were they truly running from? In that moment, as darkness enveloped her, she realized, some terrors could not be outrun. What awaited her on the other side of the whispers? What price must she pay for safety? Anna blinked, disoriented. The shadows constricted around her, a vice tightening as she fought against their grip. The darkness seeped into her mind, a cold fear that threatened to consume her completely. She felt the sensation of falling, but not in a physical sense. It was deeper. It was as if she was tumbling through layers of reality itself, each one more suffocating than the last. Mom! Jake's voice echoed, desperate and small. Her heart raced, a frantic drumbeat of terror. She couldn't lose them. Not now. With a desperate surge of will, Anna yanked her foot free from the clutches of the shadows. She stumbled toward her children, breathless and frantic. Emma, Jake, come on. She grabbed their hands and pulled them closer, feeling the heat from their small bodies grounding her like an anchor. But those tendrils of darkness had a life of their own, twisting toward them, almost sentient. They promised comfort, whispers of safety disguised as warmth. Anna's mind reeled, a heavy fog of confusion descending. Mommy, where are we? Emma cried, her voice quivering. The light was gone, swallowed by night's unforgiving abyss, leaving only echoes of uncertainty. Panic clawed at Anna's throat. Just keep running. With each step, her resolve grew heavier, dragging down her limbs, each breath a struggle. The street before her was an unseen labyrinth, the path unclear. Suddenly, an old rusted swing set loomed ahead, cast against the pale moonlight, much like a gallows in the hanging shadows. An unsettling familiarity washed over her, as if it were a relic from a childhood long buried. She hesitated, heart racing, recognizing this place from her own past. Jake, Emma, this way. She turned sharply toward an alley that branched off from the park. The walls were tall and oppressive, closing in around them. Dark shapes shifted at the edges of her vision, whispering taunts mocking the fear she carried in her soul. "Mommy, please." Jake tugged at her hand, the panic palpable in his voice. "We'll be safe in there. Just a little bit longer." Anna pushed forward, adrenaline fueling her limbs as they raced into the alley. Inside, the air was stifling and thick. A faint, damp smell pervaded the scent of decay. They pressed on, trying to ignore the shadows that danced just beyond their reach. Anna thought she saw fleeting figures, faces twisted in agony, mouths open in silent screams. More screams. No, she couldn't afford to falter. They pushed deeper into the darkness, into the bowels of Maplewood where no light shone. The weight of silence crushed her as they stopped, panting in the blackness. "Mommy, I don't want to be here," Jake's voice cracked, filled with tears. She could barely see him, but she could feel his trembling presence beside her, and it twisted her heart with a profound grief. A sweeping breeze chilled the air suddenly, carrying with it a whisper that slithered into her ear. "Leave the children, Anna, join us." "No," she shrieked, tightening her grip on their hands. The shadows throbbed, pulsating with their own dark heartbeat, inching closer. They had to escape. "We have to keep moving," she insisted, dragging them forward, not knowing where to go, or how far this would stretch. The further they went, the more she felt the pull, the overwhelming draw of something that wanted her. Something that would take her children and leave her hollow. Just when she thought hope was lost, a faint glimmer caught her eye. A door, barely discernible in the gloom, stood ajar at the far end of the alley. Light escaped from the small crack, bathing her in a sliver of warmth that seemed to breathe promise. "Look!" Anna cried. "We can get out. Hurry." As they approached, shadows leapt from the ground, tendrils clawing at their ankles, trying to drag them back into the darkness. Anna felt her heart thundering in her chest, the air closing in as she reached for the handle. She turned the knob, praying. The moment she pushed the door open, an ear-splitting scream shattered the night, echoed by the rattling laughter of the old woman from the porch. "No!" Anna staggered back, overwhelmed by the onslaught of darkness forcing its way toward her like a living creature, hungry and relentless. Beyond the doorway lay another world, one filled with light but obscured by terror. What awaited them in that sanctuary? Would it lead to salvation, or more horrors? "Mommy, please," Jake pleaded, and at that moment, Anna realized the choice was no longer hers to make. What would she sacrifice to protect her children? And who would she become in the process? Anna's heart raced as the shadows loomed closer, their clammy fingers stretching toward her and her children. The scream still echoed in her ears, a harbinger of doom that tugged at the very fabric of her sanity. Belligerent laughter reverberated, the chilling sound wrapping around her like a vice, stealing her breath. "Mommy!" Emma's cry trembled, cutting through the chaos. The panic in her daughter's voice sent a jolt of adrenaline coursing through Anna's veins. Without thinking, she yanked the door open wider, its rusty hinges protesting with a groan. The light was disorienting, a blinding glare that cut through the suffocating darkness surrounding them. "Trust me," she shouted, pulling Jake and Emma forward. They stepped into the light, the warmth enveloping them like a heavy, protective blanket. As they crossed the threshold, the shadows recoiled, hissing like angry serpents deprived of their prey. But as Anna turned to slam the door behind them, the world inside didn't feel right. The air was thick with a stale sweetness that seemed to pull at her mind, whispering promises of comfort and safety. The walls were painted in soft hues, and delicate floral patterns danced along the surfaces. Yet, behind that veneer lay a rot that stank of despair. "Where are we, Mommy?" Emma asked, her small voice quivering as she took in their surroundings. "I don't know, sweetie," Anna replied, her voice wavering. The room felt too perfect, too inviting, and that made her skin crawl. "Just stick close to me." As they ventured further inside, the light dimmed, the air shimmering with an unease that felt palpable. There were no windows, no signs of life, only a long hallway that stretched out like an abyss. Each footfall echoed, mocking their presence, filling their surroundings with an ominous rhythm. Suddenly, an ornate picture hung on the wall caught Anna's attention. At first glance, it appeared to be a serene landscape, a meadow kissed by golden sunlight, but as she stepped closer, she noticed the details began to blur, twisted forms appearing to writhe beneath the painted surface. The trees seemed to twist and sway, barbed fingers reaching out through the canvas. "Mommy, I don't like this." Jake's voice trembled as he wrapped his small hands around her waist, his head buried against her side. "I know, honey, I know," Anna whispered, pulling him closer, feeling his warmth grounding her. "Let us keep moving." They shuffled down the hallway, hearts racing with every step. Shadows clung to the edges, whispering her name with seductive tones. "Anna, no!" she shouted, shaking her head as if warding off a spell. "Just keep going." As they turned a corner, a door stood at the end of the hallway. Unlike the others, it was cracked open, a soft light spilling from within like a siren's call. Hesitation gripped Anna, but fear for her children surged stronger. "Do we go in?" Emma asked, her eyes wide, tears pooling like small pools of liquid terror. "We have to," Anna replied, resolute. "We can't go back." Pushing the door open, they stepped inside. The room was beautifully decorated, flowers in vases, soft music filtering through the air, yet an unnatural chill swept through her. In the center stood an ornate mirror, intricately crafted with silver filigree. Anna felt drawn to it, unable to resist the magnetic pull. "Mommy!" Jake cried, clinging to her leg. "Don't go too close." The reflection shimmered, revealing a faceless figure standing behind them, its gaze pierced through the glass, an abyss of despair frozen in time. Anna felt her pulse quicken, the lock on reality starting to crumble. Bits of the room warped, reality twisting into madness right before her eyes. "Do you see it?" she shouted, panic breaking into her voice. "It's right behind us." The shadows from the mirror started to trickle like ink, pooling at their feet, eager to pull them back into that surreal nightmare. Anna's mind raced. What had she brought them into? Would the sacrifice demanded leave them entangled in darkness forever? "Jake, Emma, we have to run." Just as they turned to flee, Anna caught sight of the door slamming shut, sealing them inside, and trailed by the echoing laughter of the old woman. Now, Anna, it's time to make a choice." What choice could she make between hope and despair? And who would be the one to truly pay the price? The echo of the old woman's laughter faded into a haunting silence, wrapping around them like a shroud. The mirror loomed large, its glass now swirling with dark, churning mists that seemed to breathe with a life of their own. Anna's heart pounded relentlessly. "Stay close," she hissed, instinctively grouping Jake and Emma to her side. Each breath felt like a pill catching in her throat, the air was thick with dread. Every second pushed against the fragile fabric of their fragile reality. "Mommy, I'm scared," Emma whimpered, her body trembling against Anna. The innocence in her voice sliced through Anna's fragile resolve. She glanced at the mirror, the twisted figure within seeming to lean closer, digging deeper into their terror. "Me too," Anna admitted, clenching her jaw. "But we have to be brave." The music that had once felt soothing now turned discordant, the notes clashing and wailing, as if mourning lost souls. As they edged closer to the mirror, a force pulled at them, an unseen hand trying to drag them into the glass. She could see their reflections, little faces filled with fear, not their own but twisted, distorted. They looked like children trapped in a nightmare, contorted mouths twisted in silent screams. Casting a frantic glance around the room, Anna detected something, a pulsating rhythm in the floral wallpaper. It seemed alive, the flowers weaving in a grotesque dance, swaying to a sinister beat. "Mommy, it's moving," Jake whispered, his grip tightening around her waist, his wide eyes filled with terror. "Yes. Stay close," Anna barked, her voice wavering slightly. They needed a way out, the little sanctuary was quickly becoming a prison. Suddenly, the mirror shimmered unnaturally. Anna could almost hear whispers seeping through, ancient voices coaxing her, promising safety and salvation if only she would let them in. The temptation was strong. Could they really escape the darkness that loomed beyond? "Anna," the voices called, dripping like honey, sweet and poisonous. Free yourself. Let them go never. Anna screamed, shaking her head furiously. The thought of sacrificing her children sent a rage slicing through her veins. You won't take them. The shadows surged, wild and chaotic, swallowing up the corners of the room. The laughter of the old woman returned, crashing against them like waves thundering against the rocks. The mirror twinkled, and back at her was her own face, but there was something in her eyes, a hollow darkness that spoke of loss, of choices made long ago. Mommy, look. Emma pointed, her tiny finger trembling. The girls in the mirror began to mimic their movements. This time, however, they didn't reflect fear but joy, a twisted smile that sent chills down Anna's spine. Stop! She shouted, wrenching her gaze away, turning toward the door. We need to find a way out. But as she stepped backward, the door became a wall, solid and impenetrable. Panic clawed at her throat. No! Please, let us go. And then, the room shifted. The light dimmed dangerously low, the familiar warmth turning icy. The mirror pulsed, and suddenly, her children were not beside her. Where are you? She cried, scanning the darkening space. Emma's terrified voice answered from beyond the veil of shadows. Mommy. Before Anna could reach out, the laughter burst forth, louder than before. The once soft music transformed into anguished cries twisting in the air around her. The figures in the mirror multiplied, thousands of eyes fixing on her, hungry and calculating. The darkness was swallowing the gems of warmth that her children represented, and with every pulse, she felt her hope wane. At that moment, the decision loomed large, one she hadn't even begun to comprehend. Choose, Anna, make the choice. What choice remained in a world warped by horror? As the shadows danced closer, Anna felt the edges of sanity fray, and with it, the horrifying truth shimmered in the mirror's depths, wrapping around her like a predator ready for the kill. The silence draped heavily until, with a final flicker, the darkness cocooned everything, and Anna was left standing at the edge of oblivion. What sacrifice would she be willing to make to save her children? And if they were meant to be lost, what price would she have to pay herself? Anna's breath caught in her throat as the darkness pressed in around her like a thick fog. She could sense the mirror whispering, calling her to come closer, to embrace the cold glass that promised a way out. Panic twisted in her gut. Mommy, help! Jake's voice cut through the blackness, sharp and desperate. His small frame materialized somewhere in the depths of shadow, clawing at her heart like a wild animal. I can't see Emma. Jake! She cried, her voice straining to reach the boy. She felt her feet dragging in the heavy air, each step a challenge as she fought against the invisible force that pulled her towards the mirror. Stay where you are, I'm coming. The laughter echoed, swirling around her. It morphed into guttural growls, taunting her with every heartbeat. They are lost. Anna let go. The words slithered through the dark, a silken threat. No! She screamed, her fingers clawing at the air as if to rip the fabric of the nightmare open. I won't lose anyone. The shadows danced closer, enveloping Jake's terrified face with cold tendrils. Desperation surged within her, igniting a primal fear that clutched at her sanity. She spun around, searching for an escape, but the walls pulsed with menace, breathless and alive. Mommy, it's cold, Jake whimpered, his voice fading. Panic flared in Anna's chest as she felt her children slipping through the cracks of her resolve. She lunged forward, feeling the chill wrap around her ankles, pulling her backward. Even the ground seemed to rebel against her. Anna, choose. The voices melded into a rising chorus, whimsical yet wicked, their seductive promises drenching her in horror. It can be easy, shut up. She hollered, clamping her hands over her ears, but the laughter seeped in, digging deeper, worming its way into her thoughts like a disease. Images flared in her mind, her children's laughter, their wide smiles, the warmth of their squeezes, all contrasted against the sickening grip of darkness. Just give us a little bit of safety, the sinister whispers purred. In exchange for a memory, just a single memory, they won't even notice. Light flickered from the mirror, casting out tendrils of darkness that shredded the warm memories, leaving only shadows of their ghostly versions. Anna felt the crushing weight of despair. Maybe they could trade one memory for the safety of her children. No. Never. She bellowed, knowing it was a lie. Sacrificing even a single moment would chain her to this horror forever. But where was Emma? Jake! She screamed again, fear twisting her voice. The shadows roared with laughter, as figures in the mirror writhed and shrieked, mocking her as they feasted on her panic. The pressure grew heavier, the air thinning. She felt the shadows around her pulse, like a frenzied heartbeat, demanding her choice, insisting on her surrender. Anna, there is a way. Free yourself. Release them and oh. She felt a primal scream burst from her lungs. She bolted towards the mirror, attacking the glass as if striking at the very heart of the darkness. But just as her fist connected, a sharp jolt of energy shot through her, rocking her back as she stumbled, vision blurring. Mommy! A pair of flailing arms reached out from the void, reflections of Jake and Emma, their eyes wide with fear, fading into the smothering gloom. Everything slowed, time stretching as the tension in the air thickened like molasses. They were slipping. Make the choice, Anna. The voices roared, their shadows twisting exuberantly as if they reveled in her torment. In an instant, Anna's shattered heart sparked to life. Sacrifice? Never. She surged forward, hands pressed against the surface of the mirror, feeling an icy resistance that bit into her fingertips. Get away from them. She howled. The glass rippled before her, echoing her fight back at her. As she screamed, a crack splintered through the mirror. With every ounce of her will, she felt warmth surge through her as she focused it, gathering her strength like a desperate mother protecting her young. But the laughter returned, louder, more insistent. What will you sacrifice for them, Anna? What will you let go? The darkness clawed at her mind, threatening to swallow her whole as she braced for the final push. But could she truly break the bonds that chained her to this terror? What would happen if she broke the barrier? Desperation clawed at her throat. Could she figure out the twisted design of this nightmare before it finally consumed them all? In that charged moment, the truths within the shadows loomed, waiting for her to unravel the sinister promise that bound them. Would she uncover the heart of the horror staring back at her, or would the darkness snatch everything she held dear? Anna's heart raced, the warmth of desperation fueling her energy as she pressed against the mirror. The last threads of sanity tangled around her mind, twisting tighter with each frantic heartbeat. I won't give in. I won't lose my children to you. She screamed, each word a vow against the darkness. The mirror pulsed violently, the shattered pieces glimmering like shards of hope. You think you can save them? The voices howled, the laughter piercing through the swirling shadows. What will you sacrifice to set them free? In that moment, clarity struck like a lightning bolt. She could feel her children's love, their innocent laughter echoing through her mind. If she had to sacrifice something, she wouldn't seep the precious memories of joy from her heart. She needed the essence of her strength, the love and resilience she had built over the years. Not a memory, she whispered, her resolve solidifying. I won't trade their lives for anything. The warmth surged within her, a bonfire igniting against the icy cold of despair. Then you shall be consumed. The shadows roared, converging towards her. With a primal shout, Anna lunged at the mirror. The glass rippled as if alive, absorbing her energy with a ferocity that threatened to snuff her out. But Anna pressed on, her hands glowing with a brilliant light pulsing like a heartbeat, fueled by love and rage. She gripped the edges of the mirror, channeling everything that mattered: the joy of her children's laughter, the warmth of their smiles, the dreams she nurtured for them. As she unleashed every ounce of will, the mirror cracked wider, expanded, revealing a kaleidoscope of possibilities within. She saw glimpses of other realities: families, children playing, laughter ringing without fear. Release my children. She screamed one last time, the force of love erupting from her core and bursting forth in light so pure that it bathed the darkness in warmth. The shadows recoiled, howling like banshees threatened by daylight, scattering to the edges of the room. The mirror shattered, beautiful shards spiraling through the air like shooting stars, each slicing through the tendrils of dark despair that held her children captive. "Mommy!" Jake called out, his small frame now illuminated in the brilliance. She saw Emma beside him, both radiating a light that rivaled the sun. Anna rushed forward, arms outstretched as she enveloped them in a fierce embrace, solidifying the connection that nothing could sever. "You're safe." She wept, her heart soaring as relief washed over her like the tide. Suddenly, the room reeled, the dark remnants of Maplewood collapsing around them like a fading nightmare. Together they stumbled back, their feet finding solid ground. "Keep running, my loves," Anna urged, her voice fierce and strong as she led them out of the remnants of that sinister place. The world outside was suffused in bright morning light, the shadows retreating into the history of the house forever lost. The warmth enveloped them as they stepped onto the lawn where familiar trees swayed gently, the laughter of neighbors echoing like music through the warm breeze. Maplewood was still standing, but the oppressive weight had vanished. It was alive, breathing anew, washed clean of the horrors that had plagued it. Standing amidst the vibrant colors of life, Anna sank to her knees, pulling her children close once more. "We did it," she breathed, as tears of joy cascaded down her cheeks. "We're free." "You're the best, Mommy," Jake whispered, his eyes wide with awe. Emma simply snuggled into her, her small body radiating warmth. But as they hugged, Anna felt a familiar tightness in her chest. A question lingered at the edges of her mind: what about the darkness lurking in the hearts of others? "Promise us we'll always be safe, Mommy," Emma mumbled, her voice mingled with fading memory. "Always," Anna replied, a fragile hope knitting within her. "As long as we have each other." And with that promise echoing in the air, they stood, hand in hand, ready to face whatever tomorrow would hold. Maplewood was healing, whispering tales of courage and resilience through its streets, teaching every soul that hope, even in the face of darkness, would always find a way to shine. In the soft glow of dawn breaking over the horizon, Anna knew they would always be home together, alive, unbroken. Now, if you felt the thrill of their escape, if you're eager for more spine-chilling tales, you need to subscribe immediately to my channel. Hit that like button now to keep the algorithm alive. Your support matters more than you know. And don't forget to flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about the ending. I'm dying to hear what you think. Lastly, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. They can't afford to miss this. This is the moment to show your support, so step into the light and let us keep the stories coming. Don't wait even one more second to share.